Hey everybody, I'm David.
I'm Jess.
I'm the husband.
I'm the wife.
And this is Married
15 to Life.
I think we found our rhythm, honey. How are you?
I'm doing good.
You feeling better?
Yeah, I was having some back pain yesterday, but I think I overdid it a little bit this week.
You tend to overdo it, especially when it comes to your acts of service love language.
I was trying to help myself by like prepping some food and getting the house clean and stuff, but
once again, her acts of service to her family.
It was really to help me out, but maybe I did a little too much, but I'm okay.
Yeah, you've had this nagging injury since what, nursing school?
No, like right after we got married, when I was working as a nurse.
So when you hurt your back on the first job, that's when it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the first time I had the back pain. So it comes and goes. So it's okay.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to see you're feeling better.
Thanks.
You look beautiful today.
Thank you.
You look handsome yourself.
You look great too.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Is it really a compliment if you have to fish for it? I don't think so. But anyway, I'm excited about today's episode. I'm excited about what we're going to talk about. But before we do that, I want to give all of you a shout out. Thank you for all the likes, the comments, subscriptions, the watch hours you've been giving us. If you are not yet doing that, here's your opportunity. Like the video, comment, subscribe, click the bell on our audio podcast platforms. Jess, are you more of a person who likes to listen to stuff while you're working, or do you like to sit down and watch a podcast?
I definitely listen. I listen to podcasts more than, because I can have it on in the background when I'm doing housework or driving or whatever.
So if you want Married 15 to Life to be good background noise for you, you can go to Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Deezer, iHeartRadio, wherever your favorite podcast platform are.
Besides Spotify. I'm a Spotify person.
I'm a Spotify person typically too. I used to have Apple Podcasts a lot more, but Spotify has become my walking dog. I typically go to there the first when I come to podcasts. So, and that's our primary place. So we really pump out from Spotify because I think most people go to Spotify too. So, but I'm excited about everything. I'm excited about this is, I believe, our 9th episode. And so we are cruising. Yeah. And I'm excited about the upcoming holiday season. We will probably do a top 10 episode in terms of our holidays and why we love and order them the way we do. But I can go ahead and tell you, probably within the top 10 for Jessica, this one might not crack.
No, I like Thanksgiving.
You think?
Yeah. I don't like Thanksgiving food, but I like Thanksgiving.
You love the holiday.
Yeah. I love the family, the togetherness. You know, it's like the start of the Christmas season too. Mm-hmm. I like it. I am not a Thanksgiving food person. I like the pie.
I mean, who doesn't like the pie?
You.
It depends on the pie. I eat most of them.
The only pie you like is chocolate. Name another pie you like.
I do like pecan pie.
Really?
Yeah. I don't. It's not my go-to. If there's something else there, I'm not going to pick it.
I've never seen him eat pecan pie.
I will eat it though. I don't hate it. I love all kinds of desserts. I just, again, if my favorite one or two things is on the table, I'm going to go for that.
I love pie of any kind. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't like turkey or dressing or...
And let me just go ahead and put that theory to bed right now. People that are like, this person's picky, in what context? If someone walks in and sees a spread of 100 things and says, I'm not eating any of that, okay, that's picky. But if someone walks in and says, there's 4 things here that I really, really, really love, and that's the 4 things I'm going to get, that's not being picky. No, that's just knowing what you love.
You're not... I wouldn't say you're picky with food. I'm picky with food. Our kids are picky with food. You are pretty much... You eat pretty much anything.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that are out there, you know, that say, well, David's a picky eater. Not really.
I don't know of anybody that says that.
Well, they're like, well, when I say that I don't prefer this or don't like this, or like when it comes to candy or different kinds of food, I'm like, no, it's not that I don't like something. There's just 500 things I like more than that. So, oh well. Anyway, before we get into the Thanksgiving conversation, which I'm sure we're going to be able to recap our Thanksgiving trip on one of these episodes, that'll be fun. We are going to be going home for Thanksgiving to Alabama here in a couple of weeks. When it comes to trips home, do you get excited about it, or the whole packing and then getting there and driving and unpacking and all of that?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of work that goes into it, but I do enjoy, and I enjoy us being there and getting to kind of unplug and have some downtime.
Me too.
That's my favorite part.
Me too. I love going home to sweet home Alabama. It'll always be home. Yeah. It'll always be home. No matter where we live, Alabama's always going to be home to us. And I really love, and I'm glad we get to go home. And speaking of going home, that's the reason why I want to talk about that as a segue, is today our episode topic is going to be far from home. We're going to be talking about the kind of the road our marriage has taken the last 15 years and how the majority of it has been far from home and how we've learned how to
and I think
adapt to that.
Why Alabama feels like home is because it's been the constant.
Yes.
It's been the constant place that we can go that's the same.
Yeah, it's like no matter where, it's like a hurricane. No matter where we are in the outer bands, there's the eye that we know if we can just get back to that calm place where we know everything is right with the world, and somewhere everybody.
I mean, I've liked
where
everywhere.
when you say roll tide, nobody looks at you weird.
I've liked everywhere we've lived for different reasons, but it doesn't necessarily. It's hard when you move a lot for one place to be home.
Right. And we will be doing, somebody actually asked us a question about, and one of the questions that came in for a possible Ask Us Anything episode was, could y'all talk about living in the different places? What were the differences between them? So we have decided, spoiler alert, there will be episodes coming where we will spend at least one, maybe more than one episode on each place we've lived and what it looked like living there. What were some things we encountered? What were some things we learned? And things about our children growing up there, how our marriage changed as being a part of that place. So that's Texas, that's Georgia, that's Indiana, that's now being here in Arkansas, and the stint we had in Alabama in between all those times. There will probably be multiple episodes for all those different places. But today, just the overarching thing is the challenges as well as maybe even some of the blessings that we've had in our marriage of being away from home. And so let's just start right up there in the front. How much of your pre-marriage life centered around Alabaster and the Alabama culture? How much of it?
Well, I mean, I lived in the same town my whole life. And then when I graduated high school, I moved 4 hours south and I went to school in South Alabama. And so that's when we met. And I mean, I was still in Alabama and I would come home for the weekends and stuff, but I wasn't necessarily like living by my mom and dad in the same town with all my friends. And so that was like kind of the first experience I had of not feeling really like you're at home.
Right.
And like going away and having the college experience being separate, which I enjoyed, but it was different. And then once we got married, immediately moving. I don't know if you want to get into that.
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, it's the same thing. I grew up in Florence, Alabama, in the northwest corner, and I lived there all the way until college. I lived there my entire childhood. I was born in Florence. I was raised there. My home church was there. So the idea of a new destination all the time was very foreign to me. My first few months of college were a rock-shaking experience.
Like where I grew up, I didn't have extended family near me. I had my mom and dad and my brothers.
Right.
No other family lived. The closest family was 4 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a very different experience because all of your family basically lives in the same area.
Yeah, my father's company, which my grandfather was the president, my dad was the vice president, when it really began to take off and really began to grow, he would reach out to all the family and say, would you like to be a part of this? And
didn't a lot of them already live there?
Okay, but before that time, I don't want to go down this road.
Your grandparents did.
Okay, yeah, my granny and my papa, who are my mom's side, they were the pastors of our church, and so they had already been pastoring there, 25 plus years. I think I was born around their 30th year of pastoring there, and so no, a little before that, and so they began. They were there for that time, and then I'm racking my brain right now.
It doesn't matter the specifics, basically.
Okay, but also my dad's parents moved to Florence, and my dad's senior year of high school was at Florence High School, which used to be Bradshaw. So that's where his senior year is when he met Mom, and then he went off to college and came back home, and they were still there. So that's when. So in the early '80s is when Dad's company was founded, and so at that point, so it was my mom's whole family, Dad's whole family, pretty much. And then around the early 90s is when the phone calls started coming out. So people were moving in from Georgia, moving in from Oklahoma, and moving in from, actually one family moved in from New York. And so by the time I was a freshman to sophomore in high school, 90% of my family lived within like 45 minutes. So yeah, I grew up with most of my family close by. It was very interesting
when we met, and I would come visit your come visit your mom.
Like for my dad's 50th birthday.
Yeah, the first time I met his parents, I met everyone.
You met them all. Yeah.
And it was kind of crazy. And I liked it, but it was also so different for me because, like I said, we didn't live close to our family.
Right.
So we only saw them like holidays, really.
Yeah.
So it's neat that you live so close.
And my family on both sides, more on my dad's side than my mom's side, they are like a wolf pack. Everything they do, they try to do as many people together as possible. Every Mother's Day, Father's Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas. It was like there's no negotiating. We will do our best to all be together, at least. And even if it's the other spouse's family's day for that year, like usually
when you live close, I get that.
Yeah. They're like, okay, we'll spend the majority of time with your family, but we're going to definitely see my family at least half a day or a whole day. So that's just the way the culture was there. So leading all of that to say this, going off to college and looking around and realizing I'm completely alone and there's no family close by. It is me in Orlando, near Orlando, Florida, at Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida, 12 hours away from my home. Literally, you might as well have dropped me off on an island in the middle of the ocean because it felt that way. I looked around and I did not know a single person.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely a culture shock for me with South Alabama. I mean, you had your uncle and aunt nearby, but.
And my grandparents. I lived with my grandparents the first 2 years of college. So that helped. I felt like I had family. It wasn't like I was completely alone. But the hardest part was the friends. I was very shy. I only had very few friends anyway, so making friends in college was hard. But
yeah, I mean, I make friends quickly, but the reason I picked Southeastern was because, long story short, God led me in a series of events to make that choice, and so I knew I was there on a mission, and so that helped me kind of block out a lot of the emotions. Being the achiever, it helped me block out a lot of the emotions of loneliness and fatigue and worry and all of that because I was zoned in on things I was trying to get done. But yeah, so I quickly learned how to adapt to that, but still the thought of, okay, well, when you get married, what will that look like? Did you ever before, I mean, when you were dating the couple of guys you were dating, and definitely when I was dating a couple of the girls I was dating, there was that question in your mind of, okay, should this turn into a marriage, where will we be? And
I never really thought about that because I knew, I don't know, I didn't necessarily see myself living in South Alabama forever. I really didn't. But I didn't necessarily see myself living where my parents were living forever either. I don't know. I never really thought where we would be. But I remember thinking, I'm not sure. Because, a lot of my friends growing up, they all still live in the same town. Right. Almost all of them. But I just didn't feel like that was going to be me for whatever reason.
Do you feel like that maybe that was God wiring you to be ready? Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the funniest shows on television for the longest time is Everybody Loves Raymond. That idea of living right across the street from your parents.
I mean, there would be pros to having.
There definitely would be. There definitely would be.
Yeah, but it's also nice to have some time to be together. Just getting started with your family and having that time to just be with each other.
Right. So when we met, you were in college at South Alabama at the time, and I was working for my dad's company while also helping a small church in my hometown. And then in the process, we're not going to get to our engagement period right yet. That'll be a whole other episode. But I came down to a church in southern Mississippi, which was only an hour from you, and we began the serious part of our relationship at that point. But then when it was time to get married, we both knew we wanted to come back. And we both knew we wanted to get married in Europe.
We knew it was our time to leave the church. We just felt that release.
Right.
And so where do you go?
You go home.
You applied for the school position, and then you got that position.
Right.
Right down the road from where my mom and dad lived, literally right down the road. And so it just naturally happened that... And
I lived with your parents for a few months while I was teaching there.
Well, actually, I lived with them, and then you lived with that other couple.
Oh, that's right.
And then once we got our apartment, right before we got married...
I moved in with your parents' house for 2 months.
Yeah, and then I moved to the apartment because I wanted to...
That's what I was thinking of, was that immediate period before we got married.
It was less. It was a couple weeks.
It was more than that.
No, we moved into our apartment in September. The beginning part of September.
Why do I feel like I lived there longer than that?
It felt like a long time. We were waiting to get married.
Maybe. Maybe it felt longer than 2 weeks. Maybe it felt like literally over a month or so. But anyway, no offense, Mom and Dad. I love your house and I love being with y'all.
We were just ready to be married.
I was just ready to move on to the next part of our life. And so when the first basically over about a half of a year of marriage began to unfold, and the end of the school year came, the school decided to not renew my contract.
Well, they were going to get rid of, you were teaching Bible, and they were getting rid of that class. They were going to incorporate the Bible class into like different
They were going to either do one of two things. They said they were either going to do a beginning of the day assembly, where everybody gets like a devotion for the day, and then you go to your all-day. Basically, what they're trying to do is get up to speed with accreditation stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what they end up doing.
Because
I know that we found out that your position,
my position, would no longer be needed.
And this was right around the time I hurt my back.
Right.
And I was unable to work anymore because I was working at a children's hospital in Birmingham, and I had to step down because I had injured my back. Mm-hmm. And so you started applying for positions all over the place. Right. Because you knew that we needed to have a job. Yep.
Put my Bible pastoral degree to good use. For any of you that have ever wondered what's David's degree in, I have a double major in ministry arts and pastoral ministry, and I have 2 minors in theater and in church music. And so I immediately put that out there, and one of the first returned phone calls I got was from Life Church in Texas, which is funny because I originally had a phone interview with them before we started dating.
That's so crazy.
And in the process of that, they said no at the time because they did not want to pay or help me with the back and forth transportation, because I told them I've just started dating this girl and I know she's the one God has for me, and I'm going to need a little bit of freedom to go see her.
Well, he says before we started dating.
It was, before we got engaged. And so in the process of that, it was one of those things that, was like,
it just wasn't the right time.
Just not the right timing. But then after we had been married a little while, that job came open again. And they were looking again for someone to fill that position. And he said, I full intended on hiring you before, but that was just something that was not a good time for us. But now if you guys are married and you guys are ready, come out. And so our first job.
Well, we went and interviewed and all.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, but we went through the interview process, and that's going to be a whole nother. We've got plenty of material for y'all. Trust me.
We flew down there and had to try
and
out
did the whole thing, and they wanted us, and God spoke to us and said to be there. And we'll talk more about that later when we do the Texas episode. But yeah, so our first official full-time ministry job away from home is 16 hours away in San Antonio, Texas.
We moved at the beginning of June, and we got married in September. So what is that, like?
8 months.
8 months after we got married. Plus, I just had this back injury.
Yep.
We've been going through all that. It was just such a crazy 8 months. And then we had to pack up our whole entire apartment.
Everything to our name.
Life, and move it, not just down the road.
No, across the country.
900 miles away from everything we we didn't know anyone in Texas.
Yep.
We didn't know anyone close to where we were living. This was your first big ministry job that you were, I know you helped out at a few churches, but this was your first full time.
Yep.
I had knew what full time ministry even entailed. It was a big move.
Where all our attention would be focused in on one church, 1 minute, not just one church, one ministry within that church. It was our whole job.
Yeah, David was hired as a creative arts pastor, so that was music, worship, and also productions, lighting, media, all of that.
Everything that pertains to a stage was me.
Yeah.
So, and
choir. Yeah.
Yep. So it was immediately a culture shock, because we were going. San Antonio is in the southern part of Texas, so there's a lot of Hispanic influence in Texas, but we were, it was interesting to be in a culture where there's not as many Caucasian people.
I think I was one of the only me and Jen. I remember Jen.
Some of you that know Jennifer from our Blessed Jess channel
had very similar coloring, and I think everyone else in the church had very dark hair. It was just. It was different to the culture, and I love the Hispanic culture. We have so many good memories of San Antonio, but it was very different too.
Yeah. And on top of that, again, like I said, when we do the whole full-on Texas recap, but temperatures, seasonal changes.
So hot.
So different.
So hot.
So different. But getting to the root of the conversation for today, all of a sudden we wake up and we're 16 hours away. I can almost remember.
Oh, we forgot one little part. Right before we moved, we got Layla.
That's right.
And I know Layla was a God thing because I don't think I could have made it. I'm not even being like flippant here. Layla was such a gift for me because moving that far away, no family, no friends, feeling so lonely. She was everything to me.
Yeah.
I mean, you were gone a lot, and I was helping you and stuff, but during the day you were gone. You were gone a lot into the night and practices and stuff. And that Layla was like my best friend. She was like my child. She was.
We call her the fur baby.
Yeah, she was. She was so important. She still is so important to me.
Yeah. Yeah, we love that dog. And so I just remember, I remember the move-in day.
Me too.
And I remember
Third floor apartment.
Oh, God bless those men. Carrying all that stuff upstairs. I was helping too, but some of those men, they wouldn't let me carry the heavy stuff. They did it, and I was, oh boy. But I just remember going to sleep that night before Sunday the next day, our first official Sunday at the church. And I just remember thinking, holy cow, we live in San Antonio, Texas.
It was really weird. Like for months, like when we would write our address down on stuff.
The wrong zip code, the wrong numbers.
Even if I put San Antonio, Texas, it would just be like, man,
what?
We live in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, TX instead of AL.
Yeah, it was really trippy.
It really was. It was just the whole concept of not waking up and seeing trees and not waking up and feeling the coolness of Alabama, of not seeing the big Alabama A on stuff around your neighborhood or on backs of people's cars. And, it just the whole thing of we're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in Bama anymore. It was just this whole, it was a very interesting, dynamic. And so let's go into the emotional, part of this, pros and cons. Immediately, when things begin to go sideways in your life, whether it's a sickness or whether it's, stuff happening at work or stuff happening at home, and your immediate instinct for the longest time is run to mama, run to daddy. We couldn't do that now.
No.
Even over the phone, there's only, they can talk you through some things. Yeah. But there's only really so much they can do to help you.
I remember feeling so lonely and so much in culture shock to where I remember going into HEB and looking around and getting so turned around.
That's the big chain store in Texas.
Yeah, big grocery store. I remember crying in the middle of HEB. I just felt like so much like, I don't know, like everything is so different.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling so lonely and so like lost almost. It was a really hard adjustment for me. I don't know if it was for you, but it was for me.
Well, again,
and we were just getting used to being married as well.
Being an achiever, you shove that stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was, okay, I'm going to work. This is what I have to do. Then when I come home, I'm going to be with Jess. That's what I have to do. And so Jessica will tell you, I tend to push things deep down and just live moment to moment. But there comes a point where that stuff has to come out. And when it does, unfortunately for me, and I've gotten better at this, and if I haven't, she'll tell you. But I feel like I've gotten better at this, that when that stuff came out back in the day, it was not pretty. It was very...
I remember us channeling a lot of our feelings into spending more time with each other. I remember being very desperate for Friday nights.
Yeah.
And I don't remember you breaking down or like any big fights or anything like that.
Well, not like that. I'm just saying it's not pretty in that I'm a mess. I'm if I typically would, put on a happy face or just power through this, now it's like I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to be alone, or I would just sit in the couch and just cry, manly of you. Well, again, I've pushed this stuff down for weeks, months, and it was
a really hard adjustment. Not only just learning what all ministry entailed, Sundays, you were going nonstop the whole day.
Yeah.
I mean, we both were before we had kids, especially.
I've coined Sunday game day because it literally felt as intensive and as tiresome as playing a full-on football game sometimes.
I mean, towards the middle part of us being there, we had 2 morning services plus a Spanish service.
Yeah.
Then there was an evening service.
Right.
And so you were pretty much, Sunday was
all day.
All day.
All day. 6 in the morning to sometimes 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and so I remember living for the Friday night and Saturday.
Yeah.
That was the time we could spend together. And then you would be off on Mondays.
Typically, yeah.
But you were pretty much dead by then.
Yeah, Monday I had to have off because it was a full-on recovery day. Because those of you that may not attend Assemblies of God, non-denominational, charismatic type atmosphere, so much of it is physical. Because I mean, I firmly believe with all my heart that God wants us to worship expressively, and God wants us to, give our whole worship God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. So every aspect, including your whole body, your whole body needs to become an instrument for the Lord. And again, I'm not saying that if you don't worship God as physically as I do, then Jessica doesn't either. So that's not. But whatever. But for me and my personality, that's how I praise and that's how I worship. And so Sundays were a full-on workout. Sundays.
Well, and even just vocally, like the
yeah, my vocal recovery, my physical recovery, mental recovery. I needed Monday to be clear. And thank God our staff meetings were Tuesday morning and not Monday.
Well, and when we first moved there, I was trying to find a nursing job that wouldn't be as physically demanding as a hospital.
Right.
So I started giving flu shots for a while. And so a lot of the time you would be off, I would be, because a lot of times that would be Saturdays they would want me to be in, because I would be at Walmart and stuff.
Right.
And then sometimes it would be Mondays. So really we had Friday night and Saturday together if I wasn't working. And then later on, before we had Nate, I started working at the daycare.
Right.
Just to do something because I couldn't find another nursing job.
Right.
And so a lot of times when you would be off, I would be working.
Yep.
So that was hard.
Georgia was the same thing. In Georgia, I would be gone most of the day on Sunday. We didn't have a night service as frequently. Sometimes we had special services. Indiana was the same thing.
I remember when we moved to Georgia, it being a breath of fresh air because I got to see you a lot more.
Right.
We didn't have Sunday night service. There was only one morning service.
Right.
And I want to go back and say the hardest part, I think, of living away from home came when we had kids.
Oh, 100%.
It was lonely before, but once we had kids, not having grandparents nearby, now they came as much as they could, but it was awful. Mm-hmm. I mean, Nate didn't sleep ever.
Nope.
You were gone all the time. I was a zombie.
Yep.
Then all the health struggles I had with Lucy and pregnancy, they put me in the hospital at one point, and I remember us being like, what are we going to do?
Right.
And we, by then, had friends that helped us out, but we didn't have family to call on. When there was doctor's appointments, when there was conflicts and events we needed to be at and different stuff, we just had to figure it out.
Yeah.
We had no family to lean on. We didn't have babysitters. It was me and you figuring out, being exhausted and figuring out how we were going to do this. Yeah.
Indiana's been the same way. Just to put a tail end on this, that having the one morning service and occasional Sunday nights.
Very rarely.
But even still, okay, if Jessica and I wanted to do anything just us, there was this process of finding who, if anyone, nearby.
We didn't have anyone in Indiana.
Because
not to watch our kids.
To go off of one of our most recent episodes, to go off of having a special needs son.
Yeah.
There is a different way of watching your children when that's involved.
And I'm not going to just leave my special needs. Not that I would leave our children with just anyone anyway.
Correct.
But there's a next level of taking Nate to somewhere he doesn't know.
Right.
Or having someone, usually what we would do is have someone come into our space.
Correct.
But still, who would that be? It was very rare that we could find someone that had the time to trust and all of that. And so I can count on one hand the number of times over the last 12 years that's happened.
Yep.
so we got really creative about having date nights at home. And when our family did come over,
we made them babysit. Like gun to the head, you're going to keep our kids.
Or if we went to visit them. And so when we were in Texas, we only got to go home once a year.
Yeah.
Now they came to us usually a couple times a year.
Each said your mom and dad would come at least once, and my mom and dad would come at least once.
Yeah, and a lot of times they come more than once a year.
If they could.
They tried their best. We could only go because you only had so many days.
Right.
And it took a full day, if not more.
Of your PTO days, you're budgeting one day
there and one day
one
back.
day back. So there's
and
2 days right there.
Way too expensive.
Yeah.
So we would drive, and we would have to either spend the night halfway, which we never did.
We never did.
It was so expensive.
That was just an option we looked into. Could it be if we needed to do that?
So we would drive through the night.
Yeah, because we discovered, we tried it. I think we tried one time before, and then we did it this way every time after that.
Well, it takes up 2 days if you don't.
Yeah, exactly. And so we just discovered the best thing to do was treat the kids' bedtimes in their car seats as if it was their bedtimes. And so we would typically leave
like late afternoon,
6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening.
It wasn't that late. We would leave at like,
I'm just saying, as soon as I could get home and get everybody together, at 6 o'clock at the latest, we would do our best to be on the road by then. And then we would drive through the night. And we would get there 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning.
It was exhausting. I remember at like that 2, 3 o'clock in the morning time and we would both have to stay awake. We couldn't take turns sleeping because we were so tired. I was like, they have to keep each other awake.
It was a safety risk for either one of us to fall asleep.
It was awful. And then of course, we were trying to this was before we had like Bluetooth headphones and stuff.
Right.
We couldn't play anything because the kids were asleep. We just had to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Keep each other awake.
Which is why we're good at this podcast, because we've learned how to talk to each other.
And now we're at this place, even though we are not close to family. Let's see, my family's like 5.5 hours away.
My family's 3.5 hours away.
4 hours away. So we're still far. It doesn't feel like we're far, though.
No.
Because we're so much closer than we used to be.
When we go home to my family, we can leave Sunday after church and be there before dinner time.
And then my family, it's a little bit longer, but still, when you've been doing, they say like if you GPS, Texas is like 13 hours. It would always take us like 16.
Yeah, because you're counting dinner stops, bathroom stops
with kids
and with both of us.
And the dog. So, so being able to be there in just a few hours, that feels like so much better.
Right. And again, we're not throwing ourselves a pity party here.
No.
Because we know
what are the good things that came out of it?
Well, yeah,
because we all know the bad.
and we know that there are people listening to this right now that you've been in military families, and you've had probably families where like we have friends that live in Alaska. And their family's farther away.
That watch our channel, like we are totally the same. We don't have family close by. We don't have a lot of friends. We don't get to go on date nights. I hear that. I think that is so common for various jobs and careers
And so again, the pain point for us, and there may be somebody out there listening to this that's like, oh, I have that pain point too. I completely understand. It is that thing of...
The part that annoys me, not to interrupt you,
no,
is...
go ahead and interrupt me.
The people who have never had that, who always have lived close to family, who always have that built-in babysitter, who always get breaks, who always get, if I have a dentist appointment, then I can drop them off at my mom's. It frustrates me because they don't appreciate it. Because they don't know how to.
No. And then they post something like, I can't believe my mom has the audacity to have a hair appointment right now where she can't keep my daughter so I can go get my nails done. I'm like, shut up. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Or the people who are like, my parents always want our kids over and I just want time with them and they're always barging in. I'm like, you don't even know what you're saying. Enjoy it.
Exactly.
There's so many of us who wish we had that where we could have like a break here, especially if I had someone when Nate was 2 years 3 months when Lucy was born.
Yeah. And still not sleeping,
still in diapers. I don't even know how we got through that.
Just had an autistic diagnosis.
I don't even know how we got through that. It was awful. I remember there'd be times I would wake up and feed Lucy and Nate's running around 3 a.m.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
And I'm doing my best to.
And David's gone all the time.
All the time. I'm doing my best to be home as much as I can to help her.
Yeah.
Okay, let's change the tone now. Let's go good things. I'll go ahead and say it right now. One of the first immediate blessings of being thrown into the fire of being separated from family with all of this is you learn, first and foremost, what leave and cleave means.
Yeah.
We have become so strong as a unit. Jessica and I, if we were a military operation, we could take over a small country. Jessica and I have learned how to literally cleave and become one in such a awesome way.
Well, and because
like literally, we can operate on a day's basis and never speak to each other. It's clockwork. We just know what to do.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
Because I didn't have necessarily help in terms of family members, grandparents, and stuff like that. I really had to rely on you a lot. The whole typical husband thing of like not being involved or maybe having a step back.
Comes home from work, sacks out in the chair, doesn't talk to anybody.
You had to be involved because we were drowning. So you would get up in the night. I mean, we always have just treated everything very much team-like.
Yeah.
Because we've had to.
It's funny because now sometimes when I'll come home and I'll, sit down for a minute and just catch my breath or take it easy for a second because also I'm getting older and, I don't have as much energy as when I was 25, 26 years old. But it's funny how it won't take long before I start feeling unsettled because I've been so used to coming home and getting right to it.
Yeah.
Coming home and not having a minute to breathe.
And I hate that because I really wish you had time because I know it had to have been hard coming home from work, working all day, and then having to jump right into everything else. And he never complained about it.
Well, it's funny you say that, but then at the same time,
we didn't have a choice.
But and this is what's funny. And I'm still learning this about Jess. And this is what's awesome is that there are things about your spouse. You're always going to be trying to figure out what's the game plan on this. Jessica's first primary calling is to be my wife and be a mother. But at the same time, I know she can't do everything. And so there's times when I'm trying to read her face. Does she want me to help? Or is me helping saying you're not doing your job? And but there is that thing of, because that is such a joy to you, is to be the wife and be the mother, and that is your primary passion, to step in and take something out of your hands and be like, can I help with this? Why? I love doing this.
It's like the whole thing, like, I don't know, stay-at-home moms, it's like, well, your job is to do all the things for the home and do all the things for the kids.
But I've never wanted you to feel that way.
I know you don't, but that's like the typical stereotype, and it's like, for me, I've had to let go of a lot of, especially back in those days when there's no way I could do it all myself.
Right.
And have to go, you know what? You're the dad too. And it's okay to give you stuff. I mean, when Lucy was a baby, I went through some bad postpartum depression because I was trying to do everything and I wasn't sleeping. Lucy had a lot of acid reflux. She would choke in the night. It was horrible. And I struggled so hard because I didn't want to ask you for help. You were already working your butt off at church.
And because of that, this is the sad thing, I don't remember it.
I talk about this season of our life, and Dave was like, "You went through that?
I don't remember it. It
was a really hard time.
I was never allowed to work through it with you because I did not know. Now I literally, there's so many times in our marriage that are such blurs to me because we've never been allowed to live in the moment. Everything has always been nonstop go. And let me tag on that. One of the blessings of that lifestyle is it didn't give us a lot of time to focus on we're alone. We never, if we had a job, this is
a 9 to 5.
Well, not in that, which is funny. You joke all the time. I wish you had a 9 to 5 job sometimes.
I was just saying we'd have had a lot more time to focus on how lonely we were.
Yeah, if I had a daily put the lead in the pencil job, and that's all you did every day, and it was a monotonous thing, I would be in my own head so much.
Yeah, we were so busy. It was just like go all the time.
If I ever was like, so what'd you do today? Don't ask me that question. You know exactly what I did today. If we had that kind of a job, that kind of a situation, where then every moment of every day was thinking we don't have to be here. We don't have to be doing this far away from family,
and it helped too. Like, we knew without a shadow of a doubt that God called us there.
Yes.
So that helped because it's like, you know what? We're not by family. Things are really hard. but we knew we were supposed to be there.
Right.
Everywhere we've ever been, Georgia, Indiana,
right.
here, that helps, because if you're just stuck at a job that you don't really have any passion for and you don't feel like there's any point of you being there, I could see that would be even harder.
And what's funny is the jobs where I did feel any semblance of that were the jobs we were near family. The jobs that we had in the holding periods, in between ministry positions. Mm-hmm. Almost every single ministry position we've ever had has been out of state. Like literally, except for that one stint in Alabama where we helped a small church for a few months. Every other ministry position we've had has been more than 3-4 hours away from home. So it's only been the only time that God ever needed me to do a job that I really did not want to do. We had family support close by.
Yeah.
And so I that's a blessing to me, in that we were allowed to have a somewhat lifestyle that never let us get into that dark place of loneliness and fear and wish we were home. And so it's really been, and thankfully our kids are at a place now where this is all they've known. And that's kind of been a blessing too.
Another positive too, if we're going to go for positives.
Which we are.
I really love that when we get to see our family,
it's a big deal.
It's a very extended time. So
yes.
like if we lived next door to our parents, we would see them more often, but we wouldn't be in their house for a week.
Right.
Getting to spend all this time, this concentrated time.
It's like mini vacations.
Like
every time.
Like we talked about this when Jen was here. I wish I could see her all the time.
Yep.
But she gets to come and we get to have like this few days of
yes.
just really seeing each other and talking
yes.
to each other. And so it's like a two-edged sword in some ways. But I do like that intense time that we get to spend
yep.
really soaking in our family.
Yeah. We really, as much as I can, when I do, I take my laptop with me in case I need to do something while I'm there. But most of the time when we're home, we're home. You know, there is...
It's like a retreat from our life.
And thankfully, almost every church we've served in has respected that.
Oh, yeah.
There's been very few phone calls. Occasionally, there'll be especially if I'm gone away on a Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll be like,
how do you
turn this on? Hey, this slide's not showing. What do I do?
Yeah.
And thankfully, because I know my job inside and out, I can walk them right through it typically. But with the exception of those momentary things, when we're at the dinner table with family, I'm not thinking about work. I'm thinking about, hey mom, hey dad, let's talk about this. We're doing this with the kids. We get to savor and relish every second
right.
of being there, which is such a blessing.
If we had a job right beside our family, we
right.
wouldn't have that. It would be so easy to not disconnect.
It would be so easy also for my pastor to call me and go, can you come in real quick?
Right.
So I would get no telling how many meetings or impromptu counseling sessions or anything. If people know you're accessible, they take advantage of that. If they know you're 16 hours away and there's nothing you could do for me anyway, they tend to leave you alone. And so it's amazing.
I like that we can have that retreat.
Yeah, it really feels like that.
And that's been, I mean, I wish our families lived closer sometimes.
Yeah.
But I've actually come to really enjoy them while we're there with them. And then also it's like making our own life somewhere. It's been really cool too, because it's not necessarily, well, I know your mom and I know your dad. And we're able to make relationships with people outside of that.
That was going to be my next blessing, is that we are our own people. Mm-hmm. When you go home, and no matter what age you are, if there are people older than you, you're immediately put back in the shadows of your family. You're immediately looked at, you're Dwight's kid, you're Janine's kid, you're Henry Melton's grandson, you're Phil and Annette's daughter, you're Tom and Pam's
and that's
niece.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
It's not. We treasure, and I'm so thankful for it. But again, when you go home, it's like you slip back into that role of you're no longer David and Jessica, the married couple who've been doing ministry for nearly 20 years. You're that couple that is part of the bigger family picture. And so I love being able to come home and in a way come back into that safety net a little bit, where it's interesting to have your 60-year-old mom treat you like a kid again for a season. Love you, Mom. But at the same time, you also get to come back and share this is what we've been doing while we've been away. And this is what's happened over the last several months since y'all saw us last. And these are some new stories, some new updates we can share with you guys. But also when we're here in Arkansas, Indiana, Georgia, Texas, they don't know who your family is. All they know is what they see in front of them. And so you get to take on this different aspect of yourself of, if something happened, I can't run to mama. I can't run to daddy. This is on me.
And we had to figure out things a lot. I mean, I remember us having to figure out, like, okay, our car broke down. Now, what are we going to do? And we didn't have family that we could just call. And so we had to really grow up a lot.
Yep. Living away from home, really, it makes you grow up. It makes you see things differently. It makes you... probably the biggest blessing of all blessings is it makes you run to God. It makes you lean on the Lord with all your heart and not lean on your own understanding. I'm so glad being at the church we're at now, the name of it being Refuge. God has been our refuge.
That's right.
God has been the place that we run to. Every weak moment, every insecure moment, God, tell me what's going on. God, what is this?
It goes back to like my whole Enneagram thing of my biggest need and desire is safety. And there's a safetiness that comes with being close to family because, if something goes south, they'll be there.
Right.
And having to learn that God has been so faithful that no matter what season we've been at, what place we've been at, who we've been apart from and all, He's always put people in our path when we needed them.
Yeah.
He has. And we've been able to be there for each other and to be there for other friends and friends to be there for us. And God does give you the people that you need in your life, when you need them.
Yeah. As we bring this plane in for a landing, I think one of the, biggest lessons we've learned is probably, just the dynamic of how to include people in our lives. I think that's been one of the things that, like you said, when it comes to, people keeping our kids or friendships, I look back and I'm so thankful that we've learned how to lean on each other, because there have been so many seasons where, because of our dynamic, we really have not been as able to bring in a lot of close friends. You watch these people that they watch each other's kids. Their kids have sleepovers, and and our kids have done a little bit of that. But there's been just several times when we just we'll look at each other and go, how are we going to make this work? Because it's like it's with Nate's autism and the ministry dynamic of our family, it really kind of makes the list really, really short of people you can let in to that part of your life. So, that's one thing that we've had to, kind of navigate, that I was just thinking about, how many times when I would sit down with you and we talk about it, and I'm like, you sure we can't do this? And in the conversation would go, well, who would keep Nate, and how would we, and could we trust them with Nate? Not saying they're not bad people, but just that responsibility of having to learn all the things that goes into babysitting an autistic son. And I'm looking into now the dynamic of him and his, now going into almost being a teenager. And I think the future is going to be easier. I think there's going to be a little bit less of a problem with that. And so I'm hoping in the future that it'll be
much easier to watch now
than he used to be. Yeah. So
he was active and getting into everything.
Yeah. So I think now the dynamic is going to shift a little bit. Plus Lucy's at the age now where she's helping so much more.
Oh man. Yeah. Having older kids is totally different than having little toddlers and.
Yeah. So I just think that at the age we're at now, even though we're away from home, the dynamic has changed. It's not as pressing. It's not as...
It doesn't feel... There was a time it felt desperate.
Exactly. That's the word.
And it felt... I remember when our family would leave. They would come and stay and then would leave. I would cry for like 24 hours straight.
It would be half a day where I would just have to accept Jessica's going to be this way for at least half a day.
It was awful. And now, I'm not saying I'm not sad when we have to leave our family, but it's not like this crushing, like, I don't know what we're going to do.
Can we do another 6 months of this?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely not that, especially when we had that long drive. Half the drive back to Texas was tears.
It was awful. It was so awful because you would leave not knowing.
Yeah.
Like, we would come home once a year, and then you're like, we won't be back till next year.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. And then we had, the little kids on top of it, and then lack of sleep and all of that on top of it. Definitely it's easier now. I still wish our kids could have more time with their grandparents. I do wish that for them, but I do think we make the most of the time we have, and, FaceTime and all of that's a wonderful thing. We could always want more, but I do think it's so much easier than it used to be.
And the blessing of that is this: our kids are strong.
Oh, yeah. Having to move this many times, make friends, leave friends.
That's what I'm saying. Watching them now, our kids are so resilient, and they're going to be able to handle a lot of things in life that a lot of other kids won't be ready for. I think in a weird way, the initial things that we dealt with when we first left home, they're not going to have to deal with that because they've never felt that.
They're so strong.
I think they would feel a little bit more, kind of like, we see our grandparents all the time. We see our cousins all the time. We see our friends all the time. There's never a pull away. I think they do miss being there.
Oh yeah.
Of course they do. But I think that's one of the blessings is that they understand the value of it. When we're there, we're there. When we're here, we're here. It's like they have the ability to compartmentalize, but also, that's not even the right word, but also to see in this moment, this is what we're doing in this moment. And that's a blessing.
What I had to learn. The lesson it's taught me that I still try to remember, because I used to be the type of person that if we were going to visit our family, I would say like, oh man, we're already halfway through. 2 more days. Okay, we've got 2 more days. We only got 1 more day. And I would mourn the time we were going to have to leave before we even left.
Right.
And just learning how to enjoy the moment that you're in.
Yeah.
And not worry about, the next few days. Just enjoy the time that you're in. So when we're there, we can enjoy it. When we're here, we can enjoy it. And not always be drawn to the time that you wish you had or that you wish you were or whatever.
Yeah. So if pressure and heat makes diamonds, I would say that's what's happened to us. And I'm really thankful for this diamond of a marriage that we have. And I'm thankful that God knew how to maneuver us through it. There could have been several times when we could have turned to very, very unhealthy things.
Well, I think
and God never let us go there.
Because we had to be so strong. Our marriage was built on that, like us having to come together.
Yeah.
And we've been through so many hard things that's like, we know that we've got the other person's back. And we know that, I know that no matter what comes our way, like I can turn to you and you can turn to me. And there's that trust there because we've been through so much.
And do we talk like this to each other all the time? No. But this is just a window into, probably our deep, true selves because, there's times, would you help me with the dishes or things like that. And there's times I'm like, honey, I need you to let me be alone right now. All those.
Oh, yeah, we're not perfect.
No, not at all. There's not saying that there's, there's never moments when we need to, deal with those things. But the thing is, that's not our default. And that's what I'm thankful for is the distance away from home where we realize if we don't work, this ain't gonna work. I know that made it feel like a double negative, but it's true. If this doesn't gel, if we can't figure out a way to work together because you can't run over to mom and dad's house, I can't run over to my mom and dad's house. Our safe place has got to be each other.
And we figure stuff out. I mean,
yes.
All the time, I'll be like, I have this thing, Nate has an appointment tomorrow at this time. Also, Lucy has this she's got to be at, and we will figure it out.
Yes.
We are really good at figuring it out.
Yeah, we have quickly learned our schedules have to be that way, and there is no regimented. Jess, I've got poker night with the boys, and it's non-negotiable. David, every Tuesday I'm going to do my nails. I'm going to do this, and it's non-negotiable. We're a team. We have learned that is not going to be the healthy thing for us, and if that's the way your marriage and your family runs, then God bless you. But we have just learned with our dynamic and where God has called us and being away from our family, we just have to do it this way.
Of ministry for is you are able to be somewhat flexible. It's not like you're working in a factory and you clock in at this time and you clock out at that time.
Right.
There's pros and cons to that. You're definitely on call a lot. But if I need you at 2:00 on a Tuesday,
right,
usually you can work around and be there.
Yep.
With some planning and stuff in advance.
Yeah, and if I need to make that hour up somewhere else, but thankfully, doing the job that I do, most of ministry is not hours based. It's getting your job done. If you have these appointments, then keep them. And if 3 o'clock comes, Pastor and I talked about this. If 3 o'clock comes and you look at your day and go, I'm good, then you know what? Great. Take an extra hour and a half and be with your family that day. It rarely
happens.
Usually it rarely happens, but sometimes it's like on a Thursday. Yeah. Like Sunday's planned. If I need to come in a little early on Sunday in case something happens, if I need to do something Saturday night before, whatever.
And that's been the good part of ministry. And it hasn't been like that every single job we've been in ministry. But I will say it's nice to have that, especially
a little bit of breathing room.
We don't have family close by that me and you can handle it. I remember there's been times like when we first had 2 kids and they would both need to be somewhere at the same time. There would be like a doctor's appointment, very rarely, but sometimes it would happen. I'd be like, well, we'll just each take one. Yeah. And we get it done.
Yeah. So it's been a blessing.
We got 3 against 2, but.
Yeah, we're not playing man to man. We're playing zone now. But I'm very thankful for the time. And I'm very thankful for every season we've had and all that it's taught us. And I'm looking forward to when we break down Texas and break down Georgia and break down Indiana and break down Alabama. I'm really looking forward to it.
It's so true how God uses every season that you're in to grow you as a person. Yeah. To instill the character in you, and I don't think anywhere we've been has been on accident. Mm-hmm. And so when you trust that, it's easy to be okay with it, even though it may not be easy all the time. You can trust His plan in it.
Yeah, the Bible says He orders our steps.
That's right.
So whatever happens today, God's already been here, and He's already. That's the cool thing. It's like walking down a plotted out guide through the woods. I'm so thankful someone else has been here before me and has told me how to maneuver it.
And I don't know how you go through this life without that reassurance.
No.
Because I can't imagine facing every day just thinking like nobody is there with you, nobody has a plan, and you're all on your own.
Yep. God sees everything from the literally 10,000 feet perspective, and He sees every single side of it. And not only in this moment, but every moment before this and every moment after this, and through the rest of time. So to know that no matter where we're living, how far away we're living, or what season of life we're in, or what we're going through at the time, to know He's here. And to know He's already been here, and to know that He's already seen tomorrow and the next day and the next day, and He's like, it's like for those people that had the deer hoof prints or the footprints you put out when Santa comes down and the reindeer walk through the living room. It's really like God says, step here, now step here, now step here, now step here, and the steps are ordered. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. They're ordered right in front of you, and then He says, okay, there it is. Now, you have 2 options here. Walk on the steps, and that's the best path, or take your own path and suffer whatever happens as a result of it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just thankful that as we maneuver through this life that we have, that in every single season, whether it's 16 hours away or 3.5 hours away, that the constant has been Him, and the constant has been each other. And I'm thankful for that. And Layla.
She's been the constant.
And Layla. And I'm just so thankful. I'm so thankful for it. It's been such a blessing. And so I don't know if there's really much more in terms of, the sides of it. I think that's pretty much it. I think when we break down the different places, we'll be able to go into the depth of those things. So if you want to see those episodes, stay tuned. They will be coming. Let us know. We don't have to do them in chronological order. If there's a state you're more curious about, leave that in the comments for us. But like, comment, subscribe, click that bell. If you have questions for us, submit them in the comments below, or you can email us at married15tolife@mail.com. That's married15tolife@mail.com. Apologize for any random noises you may be hearing. They're putting the roof on the building above us right now, so they're fixing it from some storm damage they had in the last few months. They're trying to fix all those things. Jess, is there anything upcoming that you want to let them know, like in terms of Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, that anything you might want to talk about or want them to ask us about?
I don't know. I mean, it's my favorite time of the year, so I'm excited to do some sort of holiday topic. So if there's something that you're interested in knowing about our Thanksgiving or Christmas traditions, or
our takes on things,
or like past ones, or just let us know if there's anything.
Yeah, we love talking about those things, and we love exploring those things every single year. Every single year, it's a lot of the same, but also a lot of different.
Yeah, it's been fun, like making our own traditions with our kids.
Yep.
Keeping some of the ones we grew up with.
Yep.
Making new ones.
Yep. Like one of my new ones is I'm watching a lot of Hallmark movies.
David watches them. Most of the time it's the wife making the husband watch it. He
Not
watches
me.
them without me.
Not me. In the crazy world we live in, to see something that's happy, or it's going to, this is why my papa has done it for all the years he's done it. It's great to watch a movie where the movie's going to end happy. And so there's just a little sappy thing about me. It's also where my romantic side comes out. I can't help it. But I love you.
I love you too.
I'm so thankful no matter how many hours away from home, we are together. Mm-hmm. You don't seem as happy about that.
I'm very happy.
I love you.
I love you too.
I love you so much. So until the next episode, I'm David.
I'm Jess.
I'm the husband.
I'm the wife.
And this is Married
15 to Life.
See y'all next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.